Okay, let's get started. First, thank you very much for coming here, on the early morning on Thursday, and especially our friends from the media. Thank you for having you here. And also, we have some speaker guests here today, and they will speak later after I read our statements. So our group name is the Stop Anti-Asian Hate Crime Advocacy Group, and we are hosting today this press conference to make an announcement that we are launching our website together with a toll-free hotline for victims of racism to report any incidents. And the recent data from Statistics Canada shows the number of hate crime reported to police across the country went up 37% in the first year of COVID-19 pandemic compared with the previous year. The agency says 2,669 hate crime were reported in 2022, the highest number since comparable data became available in 2009. Statistics Canada say police reported hate crime target race or ethnicity rose 80% in 2020 compared with 2019. It says reported hate crime target East or Southeast Asian people went up 301%. Those targeting Black people went up 92%. Those against Indigenous people went up 152%. And those against South Asian people went up 47%. On July 2021, more than half of the Asian Canadians surveyed by the Angus Reid Institution said they had suffered discrimination over the past year. In Vancouver, police said anti-Asian hate crime increased 717% during the first year of COVID-19 pandemic. Our organization aims to combat racism in all forms, and we have recently launched a website 1-2-3.site and our toll-free number 1-877-9123-123. This website and the toll-free is designed to promote social equality and racial justice in Canada. One of the features is to encourage victims to report racism incidents. We have partnered with BC Access Pro Bono Society to provide legal aid to anyone who are the target of racism. Recently, 2 suspects has been charged with mischief under $5,000 over the incident at Rocanini Coffee Roaster in Richmond. They caught media attention again when they appeared in court on April the 8th. At Richmond Provincial Court. One suspect spilled a racial slur at the CTV News Vancouver cameraman, who is of Asian descent. Chinatown is also a victim of racism. On January the 16th, the exterior wall of the historical garden was spray painted, while window at the nearby Chinese Culture Center was smashed. It is the latest in a series of incidents of vandalism that have afflicted the community over the past 2 years. The fight against racism is imminent. The Stop Anti-Asian Hate Crime Advocacy Group is working with other organizations to form a community coalition against racism and Asian hate. Thank you very much. So first, I would like to invite one of the speakers, representative from the office representative from Mr. Palm Banks, our MP for Steve Richmond East, to read a statement. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm here on behalf of MP Palm Beans, the Member of Parliament for Steveston Richmond East. I'm here to read his statement for conference today. This is his statement. Okay. Like any Canadian, I openly embrace diversity in my community and in my country. It therefore angers me to see that there are those who would show violence and hatred toward other ethnicities. This is not who we are, and this is not who we should choose to be. Today, I want to make it clear that I fully stand with those who seek to combat racism in our community. Over the last 2 years, anti-Asian hate has risen due to misinformation about COVID-19. And it is no secret that not enough has been done to address this rise in racism and those who perpetrate it. As your MP, I want to make it clear, racism has no place in my riding, no place in our city, and no place in our great country. This is why our government has committed $85 million in budget 2022 to support Canada's new anti-racism strategy and the National Action Plan on combating hate. This funding will support important community projects that promote understanding across Canada and to reduce the incidence of racism and discrimination. Our government has made this pledge to you, and today I ask you to make a pledge to our country, to stand up against those who would seek to hurt others based on their race, to demand that those found to have committed hate crimes to prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Canada has and always will be a culture mosaic, a country that embraces diversity as an inherent strength. Let's all then embody their ideals, embody that it means to truly be Canadian, and stand up to hate. Carmen Bates, MP for Steveston, Richmond East. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for MP Palm Baines to have a representative to be. He was hoping to be here today, but he's busy at another event. And next speaker, we would like to invite Richmond City Councilor, Mr. Andy Hobbs.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here on the one hand to support this cause. It's unfortunate that we have to be here for such a cause, but it is important. Hate and racism are completely unacceptable in our society. We're all neighbors, we're all very diverse. It's a very multicultural country that we live in, and Richmond is the most multicultural city and diverse city in Canada. When we talk about hate and racism, we have to remember that it's very coercive. It's like carrying around acid in your own body. It eats you up from the inside. So we have to encourage everybody to embrace diversity and the multicultural country that we live in. And we have to remember that when you see something inappropriate, you see something that's racist or hateful, it's important that you take action, because the type of behavior that you walk by and possibly ignore is the kind of behavior that you are condoning by walking by it and ignoring it. So don't condone it. When you can, say something. When you can, do something. When you can, report something. When you can, support people who are the subject of hate or discrimination. It's important that we do that. So I'm glad to be here to support this cause, to stop anti-Asian hate and discrimination of all types. We all live on the same planet. We all breathe the same air. We're all warmed by the same sun. We all want the same thing for our families and our children. And we all want the same thing for our community and our society. And that's to be prosperous and be healthy and to live a good life. Part of living a good life means being supportive of your neighbors. And that means standing up and saying, no, that behavior is wrong and unacceptable. And being part of the solution and part of a vibrant and beautiful community to live in. And that's what we all want. It's a common value. So thank you very much for being here to support this cause. Thank you very much for inviting me. And we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Andy. And the next speaker, I would like to invite our Richmond City Councilor, Mr. Chow. He's also the president of the organization called Stop Racism Alliance. And this is an organization we are inviting to this community coalition that we will stay together, stand together for the fight against racism. Welcome, Mr. Chow.
Yes, first of all, I thank you for coming. And also thank you to my council colleague, Andy Hobbs, for making the speech. Now today, on behalf of Stop Racism Alliance, I welcome the launching of a new multilingual reporting website and hotline, offered by the Stop Anti-Asian Hate Crime Advocacy Group. Racism has always existed in our society. However, because of the pandemic and other reasons, we have seen a worsening situation in the last few years. Reports after reports and studies after studies confirm that despite the measures taken by different levels of government, racism is still severe. To provide local context, in Richmond, reported hate-motivated crimes increased by 240% from 2019 to 2021. The fight against racism starts with education and policy changes. However, law enforcement and victim support are crucial as well. Therefore, the launching of the multilingual report mechanism is very much in need. It has been identified that the language barrier is a major barrier for people to report hate crimes and hate incidents. Last year, David Eby, the Attorney General, acknowledged that, quote, some people may be reluctant to report incidents through existing avenues, like calling the police, which may mean we have an ever under-reporting of the scope of the problem, end quote. Since then, I understand that a community organization has provided a telephone reporting hotline in Surrey. In March, the North Vancouver RCMP and Coquitlam RCMP launched a pilot online reporting system for hate-motivated crimes to encourage people to report. The launching of a new multilingual phone line and website today by the Stop Anti-Asian Hate Crime Advocacy Group is an additional tool to encourage hate crime reporting. It's an important initiative provided by this organization, and I'm sure it will well serve the community. I hope that we will not need this hotline one day, and racism will disappear in our society. But I believe there's still a long way to go until that day comes. And let's work together closely to combat racism. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Next speaker, we would like to invite the president of Chinese Benevolent Association, Mr. Fred Guo, and he can speak on behalf of some of the issues at Chinatown.
Hi everyone. Glad to see everyone in here in the same place, and then we discussed about the racism in a local area, particularly the racism been existing for ever since the first Chinese stepped into Canada, and after all this year, Chinese Benevolent Association been always try to protect the civil rights of Chinese Canadian, and however, all this racism is on the rise ever since 2020, and although it was reported by the Bloomberg in New York, saying naming Vancouver is the capital of anti-Asian hate crime, but actually that's only the surface. To what I know, only about 1/4 of the cases victim being harassed is reported to the authority, and pretty much every business in Chinatown, every building in Chinatown owned by Chinese or with Chinese characters on it will endure constant graffiti, trashes, broken window, human waste, and physical harassment, verbally and physically assault that happen on a daily basis. And however, the situation doesn't get improved. Although there's been the authorities, like say Vancouver Police Department and the City of Vancouver, they did offer a lot of assistance. However, the phenomena has been continued until today. And here I think we can ask our government to have a more holistic solution for this racism. Just talking about it, report about it is not important. We do need some physical action, something that works. And so, and all I can ask is ask everyone get together and say no to racism. And we have to report every single incident, not just to talk about it and hoping someone will come over and give us a helping hand. We have to voice our opinion loud. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fred Gobb from the Chinese Benevolent Association in Chinatown. And the next speaker, we would like to invite our partners for this website and the hotlines, the SS BC Pro Bono Society, and Mr. Jimmy Yan to speak.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jimmy Yan, Project Information Officer of Access Pro Bono. So Access Pro Bono facilitates free legal consultation services and legal services in British Columbia. And we have the capacity to process like 20,000 inquiries in a year. In the year 2021, we successfully made over 6,000 placements for local British Columbians. Like what this is the city of Richmond, so like what we work with Chimo, work with Success, and then we're pleased to actually offer our support to those who experience racism and hate crimes. And so providing them with our legal services, legal information, and our referrals to other agencies or other services. And we commend the efforts of the advocacy group to make the site, 123 site, available in multi-languages, so more ethnic communities can benefit from the service. Anti-racism is not about one race, but building an equitable society for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. And next, I would like to invite a friend. His name is Sean Lee, and he's from the Korean community, and he would like to speak to everyone here.
大家好，我叫 Sean Lee. I'm a Coquitlam City Councilor candidate for 2022 and a representative of Korean community. First of all, I appreciate the Stop Asian Anti-Asian Hate Crime Advocacy Group for organizing this media conference and the chance to speak today. According to the Vancouver Police Department, hate crimes are up by 97%, and anti-Asian hate crimes are up by 717% between 2020 and 2021. These numbers means that we are in danger. This means that we are facing all kinds of hate crimes against us. Asian women are being targeted. A number of Chinese, Korean kids, men and women, whoever looked Asian, being attacked verbally and physically every day. Think about this. Asian hate can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. Even right now, because we look the same. It is our problem, not just for Chinese or Korean. This is the reason why I decided to run for the City Council in 2018, to protect Asian community from racism. And here I am again, running for the City Council this year for the exact same reason. It matters to me if Asian kids are made fun of. It matters to me if Asian women are being attacked. It matters to me if our community continues to blame for COVID-19. We've been through this from generation to generation. This is more than enough. Now is the time to change. We'll now pass this on to our next generation. For this reason, I'm running for the Coquitlam City Council again this year. It is my goal not only for carry out my platform, but to stop Asian hate crime right here, right now. Today, I promise you that I'll protect Asian communities from Asian hate. As well, I volunteer to translate your website into Korean so that we can work together. I am able to work as a bridge between Asian communities for the same goal. I will make it happen no matter what with your support. 谢谢. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for the support from our Korean community friends. And next, I would like to invite our organization's co-founder, Dr. Ali Wang, to give us an update on the incident of the Richmond coffee shop incident. And there was a court case on April the 8th. Mr.
Thank you. Last Friday, April 8, the Rockney coffee shop case finally returned to the court for the trial. I think you all know from the news, the accused attacked again, used some racism language to two reporters of Asian descent. The member of the Stop Anti-Asian Hate Crime Advocacy Group followed this trial closely, and I was there on the whole time. The female accused even gave me and another Asian lady the middle finger. When I reported to the police, she stopped it immediately. Based on online information, we all know that, additional to this case, those accused has already did some, the racism language or offensive actions to some Chinese Canadians several times and caused emotional pain to the victims. We intensely hope that this time the court and justice system can consider this case seriously. Think about the hate motivation, because we all believe the justice is a key point to stop racism and discrimination. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Ali Wang. Just a quick update. The court case has been rescheduled to September 15th at the Richmond Provision Court for these two suspects to be appealed again at court. And next, I would like to invite one of the speakers, Mr. Michael Lee, our MLA from Vancouver Langara, to speak. Just in time, Michael.
Well, good to see you, Councilor Hobbs and Councilor Au and Fred Kwok and other leaders in the community here. I'm very pleased to be joining today's media conference. I think it's very important that we look at and consider what kind of community we want to continue to build here in Richmond, in Vancouver, across the Lower Mainland, and the latest acts of vandalism, visual signs of racism against Asians in our communities continue to raise some serious issues. And I know that we continue to come through the pandemic in a healthy and safe way. But we need to really strongly consider with our community leaders in front of our municipal election campaigns, in the midst of federal leadership runs and other activities provincially, as to the kind of leadership we need in our communities. We want to continue to support those like Ali Wong and Ivan Pak and others who are standing up against anti-Asian sentiment and racism in our communities. And it's very important that we continue to report and use the mechanisms in terms of the organizations and the reporting mechanisms, including with Access Pro Bono BC, in terms of the work that they're doing. We need to find and ensure that we're continuing to invest resources in our law enforcement partners in investigations and enforcement. And I know as the MLA for Vancouver-Langara, the work that we do in the Legislative Assembly is to continue to communicate to our current government as to the importance of community safety. We all should feel safe in our neighborhoods. And regardless of your ethnic background, your country of origin, as someone who's living here in the community, safe in our province and our neighborhoods, we need to ensure that we are feeling safe, that we aren't going to be the victims of random attacks based on the way we appear, the way that we look, and that we have to cut through all the noise, all of the false narratives that have been put out about people of Asian descent. And I know that there's great opportunity as we come forward to work together to continue to raise the awareness, but also ensure that we have community leaders and those elected representatives of ourselves at all three levels of government continue to stand up and be very clear. Not only that there's no place for racism against Asian people here in this province, in our communities, but that we need to continue to find ways to work together across community bounds, that we need to find ways to collaborate. As some would know, I'm also the critic for Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. We've seen the challenges with Indigenous peoples throughout the course of our history, ensuring finding real and true reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. That is very fundamentally important. But Asian people, of course, have had a strong history in our province, been part of the whole historical move. Like when my parents came from Hong Kong in 53 and 62, they came to be part of a better country here and to build a more common future. And I know that with many of the leadership of those participating, including in the Chinese Canadian community, that there's much that has been done to help our community, to ensure that we continue to support new immigrants and refugees from the Ukraine, for example, and from other countries that are in a lot of strife. So we need to continue to work together, and I know that that kind of leadership will bring together more of the recognition that Canadians, regardless of our background, we all are truly sharing common values and common views of respect for each other, tolerance and harmony and support. We need to act with a lot of compassion, and I know that so many members of our community will want to do that. We need to continue to change the face of leadership in our province, and I know that many of us are working to do that in the days and months to come. I look forward to continuing to work with organizations like Stop Asian Hate and other community organizations in terms of what we need to do to come forward more. So look forward to and continue to support the good work that you're doing here as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, and next we would like to move to our Q&A sections. If anyone in the audience would like to ask a question, I'll be happy to answer it.
Can I have Mr. Kwok to talk about the Chinatown vandalism?
Yes, sure, Mr. Kwok.
Yes. 我想可唔可以同我哋講用廣東話講一下最近Chinatown 嗰個情況有幾嚴重，同埋咧你覺得 要點樣先至可以停止嗰啲針對 Chinatown、針對我哋學校嘅嗰啲運動？
其實我喺溫哥華唐人街參加活動咧都有40-50年嘅歷史嘅，所以對於整個過程我係都好有深入嘅了解嘅。咁其實呢個歧視嘅情形咧，係喺過去嗰10年都已經係好嚴重㗎啦。只係去到2020咧，個情形就十分嚴重。咁我亦都曾經向警察局同埋市政府啲市議員咧係反映過呢個現象，要求協助嘅。咁當然亦都得到警察部啊，咁即係佢哋係好合作，即係。但係咧，其實個現象係咩咧？尤其是喺溫哥華唐人街咧，所有有關乎係中國人經營嘅生意，或者中國人擁有嘅物業，或者有中文字嘅招牌啊嘅地方咧，就會受到塗鴉、打爛玻璃、屎尿、垃圾，包括有時走埋嚟同你攞錢，即係騷擾嗰啲人，咁令到咧。其實我所知道咧，大部分中國人咧，即係喺溫哥華呢邊咁講啦嚇，就每一個人都覺得溫哥華唐人街係唔安全嘅，唔好落去。咁因為咁嘅現象咧，就影響到咧，即係嗰啲做華人生意嘅就冇生意可做。而有個現象咧，我知道了解好多次都係發生嘅，就係。嗰啲流浪者咧係襲擊去唐人街飲食或者去買嘢嘅人咧，佢係襲擊嗰啲顧客嘅令，咁於是咧呢個現象咧就令到落到去唐人街嗰啲人咧覺得佢十分唔安全嘅，咁於是形成咧好多華人嘅店鋪咧亦都搬離咗唐人街，咁呢個現象係喺過去嗰至少6-7年咧，係都好嚴重嘅。尤其是有時半夜咧，爆竊啊、撬門入嚟啊、打爛玻璃入嚟嗰度偷嘢啊，有時縱火嘅情形亦都好經常有出現嘅。咁曾經嗰個中華文化中心就已經有一次咧，就係早3-4年前咧，就係聖誕節之前咧打爛幾塊大玻璃。你揾木板封咗之後，第2晚佢走翻嚟放火嘅，即係火燒嘅。咁卒之咧，打爛玻璃警察就冇嚟嘅，但係因為有縱火嘅情形咧，咁個警察就即係到場去即係處理呢件案件。咁其實最嚴重咧就係喺2020年4月咧，喺中華文化中心嘅窗門咧出現啲仇恨塗鴉，咁嗰啲言語咧其實係好煽動性，就要求所有啲人咧見到啲中國人就地槍殺嘅，即係好似第2次世界大戰希特拉殺猶太人咁樣，即係直情就係公開號召啲人去做呢啲行動。咁曾經我亦都問過警察局咧，就係話呢啲其實係一種恐怖主義嘅手段嚟嘅喎，係同以普通嘅仇恨罪案係已經係比較嚴重多好多嘅，但即係當然呢個要真正成立呢啲咁嘅控罪咧，亦都好困難嘅。咁但係喺執法方面係做咗嘅，但係喺立法嗰方面咧，就係當控告呢啲罪就算捉到個罪犯咧，嗰個控罪好多時都好差好少嘅，有時咧就話太輕咧就都冇乜點真正去處理嘅。直至有一宗案件就係佢打爛玻璃，我哋追住佢一直跟咗佢4-5條街，咁打電話911要求佢嚟處理，咁到最後佢哋都係希望我哋唔好press charge， 即係去告呢個人，因為可能一來係太過昂貴嘅經費去處理一個犯人，而呢啲人本身亦都係好難處理。不過喺市區東端，溫哥華市區東端呢個現象咧係不斷咁樣係存在，而且咧係不斷喺擴大嘅。 咁我哋所知3級政府每一年投入呢個 Downtown East Side 市區中心 every year funding allocated to the Downtown East Side is 500 million. It's almost like million, half, 2 million a day for the population of say 20,000. That's a lot of money, and then we don't really see any result coming out of it. And then we have to do some fact checking about how the money was spent and why it is getting worse, is not instead of getting better. 咁每一次，就算喺溫哥華市政府喺去年咧，佢亦都因為塗鴉嚴重咧，就直撥款市政府撥款20萬就攞嚟處理呢啲塗鴉嘅案件嘅，但係咧錢就撥多咗，但係嗰個塗鴉現象係冇改善到嘅。咁所以我哋即係應該問下 ，we have to ask our city officials what is the remedies instead of just keep allocating more funding to deal with the situation, and we actually want to see real result, not just keep thinking money. And then 舊年去年6月2021年，我哋亦都邀請咗2個市政府嘅市議員喺富大酒樓咧，同我哋唐人街社區嗰啲華裔嘅華人嘅商戶啊，同埋啲建築業主坐埋一齊。當時有2個晚上，分開2個晚上做嘅。咁反映咗個現象咧，就係我哋亦都向呢個2位市議員咧要求佢哋即係睇下點樣喺市議廳入邊反映下呢個現象，就係市議會一路都有不停去撥款去處理呢個即係個咁嘅現象喺社區嘅現象。咁但係受害者咧就好多時咧係不特止冇得到幫助咧，而仲要反而俾市政府俾張罰單罰錢嘅，因為咧佢後邊嗰啲垃圾不停每一日咧，嗰啲人都翻轉頭咧，不停同你潑啲垃圾喺地下樹。咁日以繼夜冇一日係冇嘅，咁於是咧有啲塗鴉咧又係喺呢個鋪面嗰處，每一日都塗鴉。你今日做咗佢，今晚就翻嚟又同你做多啲塗鴉上去，即係永遠冇一日係冇塗鴉嘅。咁但係咧市政局入邊嘅 inspector 咧嚟到咧就俾張罰單佢，即係話點解你唔去處理翻你哋自己嘅門口嘅環境？但係咧係冇辦法跟得切，因為咧每一日佢都翻嚟係差唔多係呢個咧，我本人覺得係一個針對性嘅做法，即係有人喺後邊去策劃呢啲咁。若果唔係所以點解喺當年唐人街咧係污糟邋遢屎尿係好多年嘅事㗎啦，直至到去年年中咧，咁就即係市政府咧就因為個塗鴉太嚴重咧，就開始認真去處理溫哥華唐人街嘅現象。咁大部分人唔知咧，就只係覺得唐人街咧就係又老又舊又污糟又治安唔好落去啊咁所以咧呢個負面影響咧係即係需要好一段時間，我哋先至可以將佢糾正翻佢。
咁你都答咗咁多問題，你希望而家嗰啲措施如果係冇咩effect 嘅話咧，你希望有啲咩嘅 suggestion 俾我哋嘅三級政府可以做到？
其實我哋而家喺溫哥華唐人街幾個社團都不停向市政府反映，亦都不停向警察局反映嘅。咁實際具體嘅辦法，我相信都係要官民合作，即係大家一齊去喺教育方面係亦都要令到啲人了解到呢個係 一就係一個唔公平嘅現象，二咧就係對於財產嘅損失係好嚴重嘅，即係變咗好多。我係見過啲鋪頭係喺2020喺明街500號 block 咁就係又放火燒，每一日打爛玻璃，打爛完又再打爛，打爛到咧咁佢冇辦法買現梳啦，咁佢就索性搬走算數啦，即係咁。咁呢個咧呢個現象其實而家 Guest Town 都有呢個現象嘅，咁但咧我哋只能夠希望市政府咧就做多啲嘢啦。咁曾經我哋喺2021年咧，我哋就辦咗一個叫做 Chinatown Street Safety Initiative 嘅一個 program， 就係即係社區聯防，咁就亦都得到市政府咧撥款3萬蚊咧，就即係請咗個我哋請咗個印裔嘅年青人咧，就同我哋巡街，即係睇住啲現象，協助路上有問題嘅人，協助佢。咁呢個 program 咧喺舊年咧就10月咧就已經結束咗㗎啦。咁亦都係要睇下市政府就仲有冇意思再辦呢啲計劃。咁而家眼前咧，我哋亦都係希望市政府咧喺唐人街裝多啲，譬如撥些少款項協助啲商戶啊或者樓宇咧擺啲監控鏡頭錄像同埋即係喺唐人街處做多些少呢啲揾多些少保安嘅人員。而家咧整個唐人街一區咧只有一個保安，即係私家保安咧係喺度協助處理啲濕碎事件，但係唔夠人手去做呢樣嘢。咁即係呢個現象只能夠要睇我哋市政府點樣有啲咩實際行動去幫我哋去一齊去處理呢一個歧視針對性歧視嘅活動行為咯，即係。
Can I get to that? Sure. And just wanted all for us to recognize Wilson Miao here as well. When I said earlier that we need to define what community we want, Chinatown, of course, as Fred says, is the cultural touchstone for our communities, for not just the Chinese Canadian community, but also for the larger community around Vancouver. And like Fred said, some serious questions have been continued to ask in terms of the amount of the resources that are spent on a monthly and yearly basis by all of the well-meaning organizations. We need clearly all three levels of government working more together. And I know that Councilor Lisa Daminato in Vancouver has talked about a mental health task force, which is a way to make sure that all three levels are cooperating and working together to deal with many of those who are vulnerable and on the streets, who are suffering from significant mental health challenges, addiction challenges, displacement, escaping partner violence, and again, Indigenous peoples. So there's a lot that needs to be done in ensuring that we're having the kind of wraparound supports, not just providing housing for people, but also ensuring that they're getting the right level of supports to help them deal with their mental health and other addiction challenges. But in terms of community safety, clearly the situation is getting worse. And it's to the point that even when the City Council of Vancouver is looking at free parking in order to have more activity back in Chinatown, I think that that may be a meaningful initiative to consider. But it's more than that. We need to consider the fundamental roots of the issue. And the challenges on the downtown east side continue to overrun many of the merchants and the clan associations, the cultural organizations. As much as we look at a Chinese museum, which I'm very much in favor of, we have to look at Chinatown as a whole. And I know that here in Richmond, the benefit of the kind of community that's being built here is very strong. It's very good. But I do think that we all need to work together to ensure that leaders like Fred Kwok, and through the work that's being done here, that we address the real challenges that are still existing in Vancouver's Chinatown, because it is the cultural and heritage hub of our Lower Mainland for so many members of the Chinese Canadian community. with the Chinese Cultural Center, Dr. Sun Yat-sen Gardens being ground zero of the level of offensive graffiti and vandalism, including the Millennium Gate on the Lions, is the latest example of that. These are symbolic, but we cannot stand and allow this situation to continue. So I know that the Vancouver Police Department has certainly elevated its community policing presence. Fred talked about all the other initiatives, like including the Vancouver Chinatown BIA that they have. They're spending a significant amount of resources just in terms of wanting to ensure that all of the visitors, the residents, the seniors in Chinatown feel safe on the streets. But we need to find ways to work together to look at the resources, because clearly it's getting worse and we need more solutions and better solutions.
And do you think there should be a tougher law on this?
I think that we look at the tools that municipalities have in terms of people on the streets, people in doorways. I think we need to ensure that it's a combination of ensuring that the Vancouver Police Department, first responders, others in the community who are dealing with mental health challenges, that we find the right resources. It's not just about stricter laws. I think it's about making sure that we have more resources to ensure that the Vancouver Police Department, as we saw with their budget being reestablished, I think that right now in the province of BC, there is the modernization of the Police Act in this province. That is something that all parties are on the verge of issuing their report. I look forward to their findings. I have colleagues of mine, Dan Davies, the member from Peace River North, who's on that committee as a deputy chair, working away, Corinne Kirkpatrick, Trevor Halford. It's the important work that they're doing to look at how do we modernize our Police Act, but also to ensure that we're not continuing to put all the burden on terms of mental health challenges on our frontline workers like the police and our firefighters. So I think we need to be looking at the resources on the streets, and I think we need to have the tools to ensure that those frontline workers are also feeling safe. We know that there's been significant burnout by firefighters who continue to get called, repeated calls in Chinatown area, in terms of those who are suffering from overdose and addiction challenges. So I think those are just examples of where the system is breaking apart. So as we go forward, I think that there will be more opportunities for sure as taxpayers, as residents in our communities, that we find the right level of resources to support our frontline workers and also our city councillors in the work that they do.
Can I have a follow-up question either for you or Mr. Hobbs, because Mr. Hobbs has been a Vancouver police inspector. It's the incident Fred talked about, that the merchant followed the vandalizer for 4 or 5 blocks for breaking the window, but 911 just ignored or say didn't really follow up on the incident and made the arrest, pressed the charge. So do you have any idea or suggestion of that kind of attitude in our legal and law enforcement system when we're facing such problems?
I think partly the response continues in terms of the level of resources that law enforcement has. I know that we know the amount of calls, the volume that needs to be handled on a daily basis, that we need to ensure that they are being provided the right level of resources. And again, we saw with the Vancouver City Council recent decision-making with the province of BC as well, to ensure that the Vancouver Police Department has those right level resources, which I clearly support. But I also think in terms of the area of law enforcement and sort of a larger issue beyond just breaking windows and vandalism, I think coming back to the city issue, as we've seen in other major urban centers, the broken window mentality can't be allowed to just fester and continue. We need to have and ensure that at the local level, we are having stricter rules and enforcement against vandalism and graffiti on our streets. But at the provincial level, where I, as the MLA for Vancouver-Langara, certainly we've had the opportunity to question the current government about what we talk about, which is prolific offenders, random attacks, the sort of catch and release type situation, where we've questioned the Attorney General in terms of what level of resourcing and direction is he providing to Crown Council to ensure that when police has apprehended or charged or found someone to be breaking the law, and even on a hate crime situation in that Richmond coffee shop, that there is charges that are laid, that the investigation review that's done by Crown Council does actually lead to some greater level of enforcement, because without that, people are just back on the streets. Now, I appreciate hate crimes and hate incidents are one category, but when we're talking about random attacks where people are being stabbed or killed or hurt on our streets, that is something else that we need to be very concerned about. So we've seen that all over the province and certainly in the city of Vancouver. It's something that we continue to talk about with the current government to ensure that our Attorney General, as the Chief Legal Officer, is providing the right level of direction to Crown Council's office and also the resources to Crown Council, because they're also in a place where our Crown Council lawyers are without a contract for 3 years. They're still negotiating a contract with our provincial government because they're not operating under on a contract, under an agreement with the province in terms of their own compensation. That needs to be addressed, and that's something we've raised last week in the House. And we know that, of course, the morale of Crown Council as a result is at an all-time low. So these are the kinds of mechanisms that we talk about. It's not just the laws, but it's also the resources.
And just one question, going back to that website that you guys are launching today. So what can people expect on the other hand? Like if somebody report a racism or hate crime, what happens next?
Okay, from the website and also the toll-free number, once we receive the message, whether it's a written form or it's a recorded message we receive from the toll-free numbers, and we will listen to it, and we will return calls to whoever report these incidents, and getting to know what is exactly the issue is, and then we will refer to our partners, for example, SS Pro Bono Society for legal aids. And we also are building, extending our networks to reach out to other organizations, for example, providing mental health support for the victims if they're struggling with what their experience. And so this is what we do right now. And but we are expecting to recruit more volunteers in order to support those people who are reaching out to us for help.
And if somebody reports something really seriously, would you guys call the cops? No, we will. The message will be, and if you are experiencing dangerous, imminent dangers right now, call 911. And our hotline and our website is merely reporting. It's not just reporting just crime, but we are providing a community support. So, for example, resources. Where can you go after you are being victims of racism and discrimination? So this is what we do. So basically, this is for the whole Lower Mainland, the whole BC. Yes, the website is now designed in English and Chinese, and also Sean is supporting us to launch Korean versions, and we are also reaching out to other a community to add more language support for the website. And one question for Chad. Sorry, Chad. You mentioned about other cities having hate crime hotlines. Did you mention something about that? Yes. What about Richmond? Is Richmond thinking of something like that too?
Okay, I mentioned in my speech that because of the language barrier has been identified as a reason for underreporting, and different levels of government have taken up some measures, such as in Surrey, the BC government supported a community organization to have a multilingual hotline. And also the RSMPA in Coquitlam, North Vancouver, they have a pilot project that people can make reports online so that it's easier for people to report. In Richmond, we are also taking racism very seriously. And I can also tell you that we have a number of organizations working together. And next week, we are going to launch a community protocol against hate crime in Richmond. And the idea of the protocol is to make sure that different organizations in the city, including the government, the RCMP, other community organizations, know what to do when a case is being reported or identified. Because in the past, different organizations may take different approaches or they may do things very differently. But we hope that there's a unified approach from the government to the local people. When something happens, we know how to respond, what to respond, and how to give support to the victims. So the launching of this community response protocol is scheduled next week, and I think more information will come. And I can say that this is the work of the community after a number of years. And we also hope that this can be a sample for the other communities to adopt. I'm glad that I'm proud that I'm part of the group working on this. So more to come. Stay tuned.
嗰段可唔可以講多下嘅？就嗰個 protocol。
OK，正如我提過啦，即係喺我哋知道語言係一個障礙嚟到係令到好多人咧唔將呢啲咁嘅事件報告嘅原因。咁我哋都睇到咧，即係唔同嘅政府咧係都有採取行動。咁譬如喺 Surrey 我哋都知道咧，省政府支持一個地方嘅機構去到提供多語言嘅熱線。咁亦都咧睇到咧喺Coquitlam 同埋喺North Vancouver 佢 RCMP 咧，亦都開展咗一個咧網上報案嘅計劃。咁呢啲都係咧希望幫助更多嘅人咧係克服嗰個報案嘅困難。咁喺列治文咧，其實我哋都好重視呢個仇視罪案嘅問題。咁亦都因為嗰個緣故咧，我哋喺下個星期咧就會有一個嘅啟動嘅活動。咁呢個咧就係我哋建立咗一個社區回應呢啲種族犯罪嘅一個protocol， 一個即係協同嘅做法。咁個目標咧就係話喺過去當有一啲咁嘅類似事件發生嘅時候，可能唔同嘅機構會採取唔同嘅方式嚟到處理。咁但係咧，我哋希望一個協調嘅方式去到咧統一處理呢啲嘅問題。所以從市政府到皇家騎警到社會機構，甚至到個人咧，我哋都能夠咧有一個嘅指引，知道咧當呢啲事情發生嘅時候咧，我哋可以點樣嚟到回應，以至到咧我哋嗰個回應咧能夠更加協調同埋有效率。咁呢個咧係經過幾年嘅工作，由我哋社區裏邊嘅唔同機構咧合作造成嘅。咁我亦都即係好榮幸咧係其中一份子。咁我哋咧就會喺下個星期咧就會有一個嘅啟動嘅活動。咁所以你到時咧會更加多嘅資訊會提供俾大家，亦都會通知各大嘅媒體嚟到去關注呢件事。